Hello, it's Macklin with M Education, and this is our second video of a 4-part tutorial on short hair. In this video, we're going to visit our short to medium length scissor cut, which can be anything from finger length to, let's say, 4 to 6 inches, and can all be cut using the template and the system that I'm going to introduce today. As always, a lot of different options using one sectioning pattern. So let's get started. So this is the finished product of what we're going to be learning today. Let's take a look at some of the photos of the finished product, plus a couple others where I use this exact technique on my own clients. Now we're going to be working in the same sectioning and the same paneling that we talked about in the theory video before. We're also going to be working in a vertical diagonal back section angle from the front to the back in our panel 1. We're going to be working in a horizontal section angle in our panel 2. And then in panel 3, we're going to go back and combine the vertical diagonal back section angle with a horizontal section angle to blend panel 3, the crown, and connect everything. Our vertical diagonal back section angle is going to do a few things for us. One, it's going to let us work in the vertical form, where we get to create the exact graduation that we want to see. It also has a diagonal back, which allows us easily to move weight from the front to the back, and a diagonal section angle helps us to get rid of any corners around a curved surface. If we were to just use a vertical section angle, there is a very good chance that in this back corner curvature here, we might create a point of weight. So we're going to stay away from that by using our vertical diagonal back section angle. We're going to be using a horizontal section angle up on the top. And we're going to do that because we want to create our length in the front, which is really our main focus of the haircut, since every guest wants to look in the mirror and play with the front there. So we're going to be able to set the length in the front. We're also going to be able to set the length right here at the high crown where that panel 3 comes up to. And that's going to set us up for connecting through into panel 3. So we're going to want to work in horizontal sections because we're going to be creating the form from the front to the back, which is our horizontal form. Let's take a look at how those vertical diagonal back sections are going to progress around the head. Let's take a look at how those horizontal sections are going to work across the head. Now when I go and cut this, on one side I'm going to cut it long, just so you can see what that rough shape looks like when we create it with a little bit more length. I'll also talk a little bit about refinement for that type of shape. But the 3 focal panels really gives us a lot of room to maneuver different hairstyles. For instance, we have this length. Our 3 focal panels are also going to bring us shorter once we start working with clippers into our classic taper haircut, and then it's going to allow us to bring this even shorter into our bald fade haircut. So as you can see, we've got our 3 focal panels all sectioned out on our mannequin head. We have panel 1, which is really going to be the foundation of everything we're working on. We're going to work this panel in its entirety from top to bottom without subdivisions. So we have panel 1. We have panel 2 up here, which we're going to work next because we want to identify the length in the front that our guest wants to see, so we know exactly how panel 3 is going to combine panels 1 and 2 to wrap it all together. We're going to be working our inside hand position, and we're going to be doing that because typically in the shorter lengths we actually want to create a little bit more of a graduation, right? So that inside hand position helps us to pull down, lower an elevation in where graduation lives. Now if we were to use an overhand position, that actually helps us raise elevation, and that helps us get into the layers. Now I don't really want to put a layer on the side. Now we totally can. We can put a layer, a concave layer on the side if you want. But to connect that all together, you get more of that sort of rocker mullet, that shag, where you got really short layers up here and then it gets a little bit longer down here. That's very cool. I've definitely taught classes on that before, but that's not what we're going to do today. Today we're really looking for that medium to high graduation to convex layer area, where it's actually maintaining or building its weight, right? Because we want to go from something shorter to something longer so we can maintain a lot of the length on the top. So we're going to go ahead and work our vertical diagonal back sections from front to the back. I'm also going to demonstrate more of a medium length cut first, so I'll actually be cutting this side twice. I'm going to tilt the head just a little bit because I'm aiming for a graduation. I'm not really aiming for a layer. So if I tilt that head over and I bring it straight out, I have longer and shorter, which is a graduation. So let's take a look at what more a medium length in this specific technique is going to look like. Now you'll also notice that my elevation seems to drop a little bit, but my elevation is actually staying the same. It's the head shape that is changing. So rather than using the same lift all the way through, I'm using the same elevation. And elevation changes with the head shape. So here we have our more shorter medium cut. depending on your definition of medium, it might not be medium, but let's call it in short hair cutting, let's call this a medium length. Alright, so it's still pretty soft. It has a nice movement to it, even though we did use a high graduation and not a layer. Remember, high graduation is so close to a layer, the only difference is you're just going to get a slight weight line, but that is easily refinable. Plus, it's going to allow us to continue more length through the top of the head. We can also see that the hairline is playing a huge role in creating the external form. So we would call this a high external graduation because it's not built off of a previous perimeter, but yet builds its own perimeter dependent on the technique and the hairline. Now, if I were to refine this, I would probably go in here. I would do some softening of this back corner right through here. Take that out. And you have a little bit more of the inverted high graduation. That's just one way in which that we can adapt this sectioning, our hand position, everything we're doing to create something that's a little bit longer. Right now I can also have played with my section control. I could have done center section control and created no over direction through this panel, making sure that this was still a little bit shorter. I could have started in the back and worked forward using a back section control and actually pushed a lot more of the weight forward, creating this a little bit shorter and this a little bit longer. So now let's go back and actually put in that short graduated length through here, and then we'll continue it to the other side. So far, I've taken this haircut all the way to the back center. I'm going to go one section past, just so when I come back and overlap with the other side, it will completely blend. So here's my finished form. Has a nice curvature through the back. It's nice and short. Now we're going to be working the other side. We're going to be working in the same vertical diagonal back sections all the way from the front to the back. We're going to start in front. We're going to use front section control, forward section control, bringing everything to that previous section because we want to build a little bit more length back through here. Now to recreate the same guide on this side, what we're going to do, we're going to section it, and now we're going to actually measure. Now you can just eye it and then measure it afterwards, and hopefully you didn't cut it too short. Or we can go in and say we're right about here, translate to that. We can measure, just a little bit more than a finger's width at the bottom. And so I know this bottom needs to be just off the head, because remember, you can get closer to the head with your fingertips than you can with your knuckles, right? So when you're doing the other side, if your knuckles are touching on the first side, your fingertips need to be just off the head on the second. Also, I'm going to be bringing this head down, so this is much more comfortable. Now I'm going to compare just a little bit long. Great. Now that we have the two guides balanced, we know that if we use the same over direction from the front to the back, we are going to get the same form. Let's go ahead and do that. Now to work the top, we're going to work the top in horizontal sections because we want to affect the horizontal form. So we're going to be working in sections that go from our high crown apex area all the way to our frontal bone. We're going to work on about a comb's width, and we're going to move those horizontal sections down on both sides. Here's the first section we are going to work. Now, we can pull out this front piece. This is our main length, right? This is gonna be really the focal point of almost the entire haircut, because this is what your guest pays attention to. It's what falls in front of their face. It's what they style up and over. So we're gonna pick a length for this. Now, I'm gonna pick something a little bit on the longer side, but not too long, right? I'm not gonna stretch this out to something like this long, where I'm going to need disconnection through the entire top just to create the haircut. So let's go ahead and pick a decent length for that. Something that can fall down maybe to the nose. We'll put that length in. Now, I also have to think about this length back here at the high crown. Now I don't want that super long or else it's not going to blend. I also don't want it super short or else it's going to be shorter than the crown in the back. So I can look at the crown in the back. I'm going to want it a little bit longer than that because I still want to build that graduation through the crown here. I'm looking at the crown. The crown's probably about that long, so I'm going to create it a little bit longer. Now I have that length. Now my guide is pretty much chosen for me because I chose the length in the front, I chose the length in the back, and now I'm just going to connect the two. top. Now as I move to each side, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do a bottom section control, which means that I am going to be over directing this towards my next section. Now I want to do that because I don't want this to stay flat. If it stays flat, then I have a huge corner, a huge point of weight that I then have to try to refine out. I don't really want something that big. So I'm going to use a bottom section control, bringing the over direction to the next section, not the previous, and that's going to give me a slight curve on the outside. Cross section to check it, we can see that it's created a little shorter to the outside, a little bit longer to the inside, and this is just going to help our refinement down the road. Now we're going to take another cross section, and we can kind of see we do have a little bit of curvature through there, and in the sides here we're going to be shorter than the center. So before we connect the top to the sides, we're going to work panel 3. Now panel 3 is going to work in the same sectioning, the vertical diagonal back sections. We're going to work that through the crown, and then we're going to use that same flat cutting line here that works down with the head shape. So if this ends up being shorter than this, then we're actually creating a graduation but working in the horizontal form. We're going to do the same thing back into the crown. Same way as I did through the back, crossed over one. Now I'm going to start on the other side and work the other way. So now we are very close to being done with this haircut. We've got the back connected through here. You can kind of see that. It's connected all the way around. So now this crown is 100% connected to everything else. Now what we need to do is we need to go in and we need to find this disconnection and start connecting that. So to start connecting this, I want to make sure that I don't cut this area right here in the recession too short. If I blend that with the sides, this haircut is then going to turn into just a long faux hawk, and it's not going to have the fullness or the sort of pompadour feel that it would otherwise have. So what I want to do is I want to find where that recession is. I want to bring a diagonal section up. I want to clip that away. This is going to protect all the length from this section over, and it's going to allow me to get everything else blended with the short sides. And the way I'm going to do that is I am just going to work back through the sides with that same graduation and the same sectioning that I created to build the original form. Now we have one side connected. We're going to repeat on the other side. Now we're pretty much done. There's just going to be one thing we do. We have this difference in length popping out over the side. What we want to do is we kind of want to blend it from our connected area out. We're going to do that on both sides, and then everything else we are going to clean up when it's dry in refinement. So the easiest way is I'm just going to comb everything over. Go straight out of the head. Create an angle away from the head, and I'm just going to point this off softly. We're going to do that on the other side, so I can see where my shape is. Create a finger angle. See, and I'm just pointing this off. Let's get it dry and let's get to some refinement. Alright, so here is our final rough shape. So I blow dried this all back because we're sort of going for a swept back, a bit looser style. This template can also be used for a pixie. Right? You would just blow dry everything forward, then you have a great looking pixie. Same shape, everything. But we chose to go with more of a swept back style. So now we're going to do a little refinement. We're going to soften up the top. We're going to make sure that any of these that are hanging over are really soft and textured so they can just sort of melt into the sides. We're going to bring this hairline forward so we don't have too much hair here. Now in a natural hairline, you're going to have a lot in front of that first section that you can take. I normally don't bother cutting that because I want to make sure that I can create my length from top to bottom exactly how I want it to move through the rest of the form. But then I will bring everything in the front to that hairline so it becomes a very dramatic short to long back in, and it actually helps lead the hair away from the face and open that face up even more. So let's get into a little refinement. front, I'm going to take this section, I'm going to do a little bit of shallow point cutting into it because I don't want to create too many short pieces in the front. I definitely want to break this line up. As I move through the back, I'm going to move to a little bit more of a deep point cutting, going a little bit more than an inch into the hair to really create some space in here so the hair has a little bit of visual independent movement. It allows hair to be hair. I'm also going to work right here in these corners because we still have a pretty strong disconnect. So I'm going to bring that forward. I'm just going to really soften that point. I don't want to lose all that length, but I want it a little bit softer so it sits right back through there. I'm going to do that same thing on the other side. Last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take some trimmers. I'm just going to clean up this hairline. I'm not going to put too hard of a line in the back, but I am going to clean it down a little bit around the ears. This is definitely optional. I have clients that like to see a little hair over their ears because they want that true like short to medium feel. You want to feel that swept back a little bit longer over the ears. But I get a lot of clients as well who don't want any hair to touch the ears, yet they want a full head of hair. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to clean up this hairline, pretending that our guess is the latter. So here's the final cut. I threw in just a little bit of a texture spray so we can kind of see how just a little bit of refinement kind of makes it a little bit piecier through the front, which is really nice to create a lot of movement. Well, that's the lesson I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you see how easy it is to take these 3 focal panels and put really any form and any technique inside of them and really create your own hairstyle from. So stay tuned for the next 2 videos in this 4-part tutorial on short hair. We had our theory first. We just finished with our short to medium length scissor cut. Next up is going to be our classic taper done with clippers, and then the iconic bald fade done with clippers. Until then, I'm Macklin with M Education. Never stop learning. I'll see you next time.